Good evening, or good afternoon, as the case may be. Today we have with us 4 citizens of the city of Burlington, and I've asked them to join me to discuss the impact of property taxes on senior citizens, and in fact, the problems that senior citizens in general are facing today. And I'm very pleased to have with me on my left Doris Brent. Doris is the director, I gather, of the Heineberg Club, which is...
No, I beg your pardon.
Pardon me?
Chittenden County Senior Citizens.
Oh, okay. And they meet right here, which is where we're filming this, at the Heineberg Club. And I've had the pleasure of being here on many occasions, and you do a wonderful job. Clarence Hoffman is right here to my left, and Clarence and I met just a week or two ago, and I knocked on his door. He invited me into his living room, and we chatted for a while. And Mr. Hoffman has lived on Woodlawn Road in Burlington for many, many years.
33 years.
33 years. Do you think you know the neighborhood well enough?
I think so.
You think so? Okay. And on my right is Sadie White, whom many of our viewers will recognize. Sadie was in the Vermont State Legislature for...
About 18 years.
For only 18 years, and Sadie also, uniquely, and that's, I think, an interesting thing, also has had experience on the local level, and was elected to the Burlington Board of Aldermen in 1981, serving one term. One term.
I went back into House after that.
And then, that's right, and then Sadie was re-elected to the state legislature from Burlington, and on my extreme right is Margaret Lemon, who lives on Poirier Street. Place, I'm sorry. You've been there for how many years, Margaret?
11.
11 years, okay. Let's start the discussion off by talking about the foundation plan, and I think it's no secret to our viewers, I hope it's not, that I, for one, very strongly oppose the foundation plan, because it seems to me that it is not wise to ask communities around the state, certain selected communities, to raise property taxes in order to adequately fund education. We need to fund education, but there are a dozen better ways to raise the money for education than asking many people who simply cannot afford higher property taxes to pay them, okay? Let me just start off with Doris, and we'll move to the right. Doris, tell me about property taxes and tell us about the problems that senior citizens in general are facing. What would happen, for example, if 3 years down the line, Burlington was designated as one of the wealthy communities and people's property taxes went up substantially, not to fund Burlington's needs, but to go out of our community? What would it mean for the people that you know?
Well, many of our seniors would lose their homes.
Yep.
They are not able to maintain higher taxes. They are taxed beyond duty now, and families are helping them to pay the last increase in tax. And I don't feel that the seniors who have contributed many years of their lives, particularly the local people, to the state government, should be retaxed by them. I, for one, don't like it. I don't want any more tax.
Okay, thank you. Clarence, your views.
Well, since 1983, of course, with the reappraisal, my taxes have been raised from $614.08 to $1,113.56, and that is a total tax rate of 194, I think it's per 100, is that it? And my house is valued at $57,400, which is a hockey house, and I don't. It's with the times. I imagine I could get that price for it, but in 1986, the taxes were raised twice, July 21st and July 28th, and the quarterly is now $278.39. And between my wife and myself and 2 retarded boys at home, we have an income of a little over $1,200 a month. But it's gradually cutting into our way of living. And I have never asked for anything. Food stamps, I never asked for any rebates on property taxes. So now I've come to the point where I think I'm going to ask for some things.
Clarence, we're gonna touch on that issue in a moment, because it's a very interesting point. One of the points that some of the people in Montpelier make when they talk about foundation plan, they say, don't worry about poor people, don't worry about elderly people, don't worry about working people,
No.
because we have the property tax rebate program, it'll solve all your problems. Now, the fact of the matter is, what the statistics indicate is that 85% of the people who are eligible for that program don't take advantage of that program.
I got the things in
And I want to talk about that in a moment as to why people do not, and so forth. But now, let me give the mic over here to Sadie White.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here. I'm a citizen, a senior citizen in the city of Burlington. Lived around Blodgett Street, Ward Street for about 50 years. I'm not of a young age, as you can see. And so I want to explain something about this property, this tax. I have called Madeline, our governor, already and told her that I didn't approve of that foundation tax that she was trying to put across for education. I really think that 1 cent on the sales tax would do the job and do it in a more fair way than it would to try to raise property tax in a town for the wealthy and give it to the other cities and towns that aren't as wealthy. Now, for instance, my neighbor has been in the hospital for some 2 months. What kind of a bill has she got? $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 hospital bill? She owns a little house on Ward Street, but my goodness, how's that woman going to ever pay that bill? All her income is Social Security, and I think she has some SSI. Very poor health the woman is. She's going to need home health care to help take care of herself, to live in her own home, if she can. So that is my opinion of that foundation fund that our governor is trying to put across.
Thank you, Sadie. Okay, Margaret, what's your views on things?
My views is that I believe we're overtaxed right now as it is. Don't you think so, Doris?
Yes, I agree with you, Margaret.
Okay, let me go back to a point, and Clarence raised the point, and that is the property tax rebate program. Now, the theory of the property tax rebate program, Sadie, you were probably in the House when it was passed by
Yes,
Governor Salmon, I think.
That's right.
It was 73 maybe, somewhere around there, 74?
Somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
And the theory of the rebate program, which is a good idea, I think, it says basically that we want to protect low-income citizens from paying a very high percentage of their income in property taxes. So if you have a big property tax bill and you have a low income, you are eligible for the program and are eligible for the program, and you can and should take advantage of it. Now, the theory is, in fact, in my view, a good theory. It's a good idea, and there's no question but that many people benefit from the program. And in Burlington, we are, I think, probably the only community in the state that has actually funded money to help people take advantage of the program. But I want to touch upon, with the four of you, 85% of the people do not take advantage of the program. I think I know why. I think you know why. Clarence, you touched upon that a moment ago. Why do you think people have not come around to take advantage of this program?
Because they're too proud to go and ask for assistance, and they try to get by on what they have for an income.
Okay. I think that you hit it in one sentence. I mean, I know and you know this is not a welfare program. This is a program that everybody is entitled to. It's your tax money that's going into the program. People should take advantage of it. But I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think there are many people who say, this is my tax bill, I'm going to pay my tax bill, and if I have to take money from someplace else, it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to go begging and asking for a rebate.
Right.
Okay. Sadie, what do you think?
I think that property tax fund, rebate fund isn't as good as it ought to be. I think there are many people that don't take advantage of it for a simple reason. If you own a home and you happen to get 15 cents more than the allowed amount that they allow for you to have and get tax rebates,
Yeah.
you just don't get anything. Now, some of us seniors have worked all our life. We own a home and we might have 15 or 20 cents in the bank that we have to pay interest on all the time, and it irks me to high heaven to do that. But I suppose we have to do that to keep our government going. But that property tax relief doesn't do me one particle of good, because they say I've got too much money in the bank. What do you want me to do with that money in the bank? Throw it away or give it away? Might get sick, you know. I need that money.
Okay, thank you. Margaret? What do you think? Do many of the people you know take advantage of the program, Margaret?
Well, I couldn't really say because I don't know.
Okay. Doris, do you have some thoughts on that rebate program? Or?
Well, yes, I do. Many, fortunately, are eligible for this rebate. The low-income people. But I'll go with Sadie. Our income does not allow us, our personal income, to have a rebate on anything. We could pay more taxes over and above our withholding on both state and federal. But we can't withhold any more. I need it for maintaining our home. And in the end, I have to scrounge to pay the extra taxes. So I'm between that class. A little too much and not enough.
See, I also think, my own feeling is talking to many people, and I think especially Vermonters who are proud people, is the
right.
feeling is people will pay what they're supposed to pay, but you don't quite understand if you're supposed to pay it, why are you supposed to ask for something back? And it's kind of weird, and it's really true. The truth of the matter is, if the state wanted to show a little bit of a flexibility, what they could do is work out a system, in fact, to compensate the cities and towns directly so that you wouldn't have to pay the damn tax in the first place. Here's the point. Right now you say, pay the tax, and 6 months later or whatever, you're going to get a check back. It would not take a lot of work on my thinking for the state to say, if we really want to protect those people, we'll pay their taxes for them. They don't have to wait to get a rebate. We'll do it in a more dignified manner. Does that make sense? Rather than having people fill out a form and getting a check back.
We get a few
Well, it
cents.
makes sense. That's why they'll never do it.
The way I figured, the way we figure, my wife and I, we are a little better fortunate than a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are living on peanuts. And if we can see our way clear to live a fairly decent life, not, you know,
A little above poverty.
it's, yeah, a livable income, and instead of just existing, to enjoy life a little bit. But there's many, many people in this state that are not enjoying life. They're just existing. And that is not fair.
Sadie, did you want to jump in?
Our medical bills, talking
Yeah.
about expenses. Blue Cross Blue Shield are asking for about a 57-58% raise in their bills. Just imagine what that will do to the senior citizens.
Is that part of the, would you be affected by that one? Or is that the medical?
I'm going to get somewhat affected by that one, not as much as some. But I was talking to the gentleman down at the Speak Out yesterday, and he said people over 65 wouldn't get the maximum raise. They'd get some raise.
Right.
But even at that, it makes a difference in your expenses, in your payouts. And you'd only have so much to pay with. You have to cut it down to meet that expense.
What Sadie is
I
talking
pay my
about.
bills.
Sadie and I don't know if anyone, Doris, were you at that Speak Out yesterday?
Yes, I
You were
was.
there, okay. Margaret, were you there?
No.
Clark, were you there? Okay. It was a very good event. It was held at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. It was organized by the State Office on Aging and the Champlain Valley Office on Aging. And I would say there were close to 200 people there, wouldn't you?
I think the paper said 150, but I should think there's about
In and
200.
out, I'd say there was a good 200.
Close to 200.
And the purpose of the conference was to discuss the problems that people were having with Medicare. And a lot of,
Oh, boy.
all right, well, all right.
That's Reaganitis.
Right, and a lot of good points were made. I think for the first, and let's jump into that one, because the point that we're trying to make, whether it's property taxes or anything else, many of the elderly people in the state of Vermont are barely hanging on right now. And if they get hit with insurance increases, property tax increases, it's gonna hurt.
Telephone increases.
Telephone, right.
I have two retarded boys at home. One of them is 41, the other one is 27. For 4 years, I had to fight Social Security. They wanted to take their Social Security away from them, and they are not capable of doing an ordinary day's work.
Okay, you're right, and that is what Reagan is about. I mean, that's the way they're saving money.
That's the situation all over the country. They've taken Social Security away from many people who really deserve it, and I don't care what he says either.
And now also, in terms of Medicare, what has the situation been in the last few
We
years?
got a little bit of an increase in Medicare, in
Yeah.
our
And
Social
they
Security, I mean.
raised our Medicare.
And just as quick as we got that, Medicare took it away from us, they raised their, so it didn't do us a particle of good.
That's
The
right.
increase in the Social Security, it was $3 or $4.
The Social Security increase
That's
was
right.
$3 or $4?
And they took it
Yeah,
away.
and they raised it about $6, $7.
You get 3 or 4. You got under 2.
You got two?
Well, under.
Should enable you to buy a cup of coffee without
Well,
sandwiches?
you can't
Just
do that
about.
anymore, Babe, about a cup of coffee.
Coffee without the donut.
65 cents for a cup of
The
coffee.
donuts are going up too.
Okay, let's talk about, Sadie raised the issue of healthcare and the cost of healthcare, and the fact that you knew somebody who's in the hospital right now?
That's right, my neighbor's been in the hospital for nearly 2 months. And, why, the bills, I know I say $5, $10, $20,000, I don't know how much. It may be $50,000. A
That's
guy
more
that
to the
reported
point.
yesterday at the Speak Out said he was in the hospital for 2 days, and the bill was over $1,000. They charged him 1 cent for something and 3 cents for another thing on his bill. Can you believe that?
Okay, now what happens, let's explain, because many of the viewers may not be aware of it. A friend of yours, an elderly person, goes into the hospital, they run up a bill of $15,000 or $20,000. Does Medicare cover that entire bill?
No,
No.
no
Never.
way.
They don't
Never.
even
You've gotta
cover
have
the
Medicom,
8%.
Blue Cross Blue Shield Medicom, plus major medical, which I have from the University of Vermont. I'm just one of the fortunate ones,
You have an insurance program that the university is
with
paying.
no charge at all.
But many
free of
people don't.
charge.
Say, do you have Blue Cross Blue Shield,
I
which you
do.
have to pay for?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
I do. And if that-
$93.63 every 3 months.
That's right, that's right.
Okay, and
That's
that's
right.
what may
My
well go
son
up.
pays
Another
that,
guy
one of my retarded boys.
reported yesterday that he and his wife had both been in the hospital. They had over $3,000 hospital bill. He had to take a mortgage or a loan on his car to pay the bill. Can you imagine what kind of a fix they put that guy in? And he's from Grand Isle, needs that car for transportation, you know. Grand Isle isn't the most wealthy town and doesn't have facilities and services such as Burlington has.
So as I see it now, you're caught in a bind. If you don't have the Medicomp, if you don't have Blue Cross Blue Shield to fill in the gap, then you're running the real danger.
That's
If you go to the
right.
hospital, you're gonna be finished completely.
That's
That's
right,
right.
they're gonna wipe your property right out.
Okay, and if
Yeah.
you do, then you have to pay that on a monthly basis, which is pretty expensive. Now, on top of that, then you have prescription drugs, is that correct?
That's right,
Oh,
that's right.
Now, is that something you have to pay?
I'm fortunate. I get, after $100 deductible from the university, on my program at the university, major medical, I get 80% back of my medical bills for the rest of the year.
On your prescription drugs
On
too?
my
Very
prescription
good,
drugs
very good.
only.
Only.
Prescription drugs only.
Okay,
That is one of the cases where I am fortunate.
okay, but a lot of people are not as lucky.
No,
Not as
we're not as
fortunate,
lucky
no.
as
Okay, Margaret, tell us about your situation with prescription drugs.
Oh, it's about $80 a month.
$80 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes out of your own pocket then?
Yep.
Okay, Sadie?
You realize when we were working, the mill closed, I was a weaver in the American Woolen Mill. When the mill closed in 53, 54, the wages at that time weren't as like they are now. If you got $80 or $100 a week, why, you were at maximum. And nowadays, you get anywhere from $300 to $700 a week,
That was about.
and they think that that isn't quite enough, you got to have a
No.
little bit more.
Okay. So I think one of the good, interesting points that came up at the meeting there yesterday, which I see as very exciting, is that apparently some people in the legislature are now talking about Vermont doing what I think the 7 or 8 other states do, and that is to have the state help out people with their prescription drugs.
Yes.
Are you familiar with? Yeah.
No, I don't know the number of the bill or anything, but I understand that there is a bill in that would help out with the prescription drugs.
Okay, does that make sense to the people up here?
It should help
Yeah.
They
somewhat.
should,
Right.
they should help
Did
somewhat.
them.
they state it was according to income or just health?
I don't know how the bill is written, Doris. I didn't see a copy of the bill. We can call in and get a copy. Some of the representatives will send me a copy. I know a great many of them, and when I call and ask for something, they see that I get it.
Not only that, if you own property and they find out about it at the hospital, they send you a bill before you even get out of the hospital.
What about that? how is the hospital, what you're suggesting is the hospital, if you know, when you owe them money, they communicate with you a lot, right?
That's right.
Tell me about that. Is that,
That's right.
but they send you bills on?
Well, in the first place, when you go in there, they don't ask you how sick you are, they ask you how much
That's right.
you're gonna be able to pay.
It makes no difference how sick you are, you've got to give them your life history just quick you enter the
I
door.
agree with you. I'm sorry.
Where?
I was taken to the Mary Fletcher Hospital on emergency. I was admitted very quickly. No questions asked, sent us to ICU. Before my husband left the hospital, they did detain him and then get the information.
Well, yours is
But
an
I
unusual
was
case.
admitted.
You were at an emergency basis, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I
When
think,
they found out we could.
yeah, I think the point here is that, hospital care is very, very expensive, and the hospital wants its money, and,
Out of this world.
You know,
For 17 days, my bills were over almost $12,000 with the doctors included.
I am not trying to say I favor the bills from the hospital, but at one time I worked on accounts receivable at the Medjugorje Hospital, and we, one week, charged off $200,000 in unpaid bills, and that month it came to a total of $900,000 that had to be charged off. There was no collecting.
Mhm.
They were 3 years and older, and we had to charge that off. Well, who are they going to make it up on? The people, the insurances?
that's a very
We're
good.
we're being taken advantage of every which way around.
Well, I think what you're really raising is is a really good question, and that is how in this country can we make health care affordable to all the people? Now, your point, I think, is if somebody goes to the hospital and doesn't pay, somebody else is gonna have to pay higher to get, and that's the point that the hospitals make. But, I think what we should also understand is that in most of the industrialized countries of the world, including Canada, 50 miles north of us, you have a situation where healthcare, I mean, not that it's free, obviously somebody is paying for it, but it's built out of the tax base in the same way that if you call the police department here right now, you don't pay the police department $100 for coming to your house. It's assumed that you're entitled to police protection regardless of what your income is. And in many countries of the world, healthcare is regarded in that same light.
Oh, yeah.
Healthcare is a right. You drive down the street, you don't pay a toll when you drive in a street in Burlington. It's free, right? The city takes the responsibility for building streets, the state has the interstate. In many countries of the world, healthcare is considered a right of people. Now, how do you feel about that? Does that,
I have an idea what we should do. We should contact all of our city representatives. We help to elect those guys and ladies, you know.
is that me you're talking
And,
about? Cindy?
and we want to get right into Montpelier there. I know Paul Poirier don't really go along with that foundation fund for education. And we should get up there and tell him, I think, that we would favor a 1-cent sales tax rather than to fiddle around any longer, and get it distributed in favor of all the towns, not give Burlington $100 and Bennington $1,300. That isn't fair to my estimation.
No.
And I think that we could deliver that a little bit more equally to get more benefit to all of the children that need education, as you say. I don't say they don't need education, but I just like it delivered fairly.
Sadie, in my view, is absolutely right. And I think one of the points that we want to make, right now, the schools in March are requesting a $1.1 million property tax increase, and I'm supporting it. I'm supporting it because
Well,
I
you
think...
didn't, because I don't.
I know, we'll fight about that. But the point is, the problem is, and the dilemma is, I acknowledge, and I'm telling you here that the property tax stinks, and you're telling me how it's going to hurt. I understand that, all right? You don't have to tell me it twice. The problem is, if that we allow our schools to deteriorate, that's also going to affect the city of Burlington, so we're caught in a bind. The point that I want to make is just the point that Sadie made, is that if you had an intelligent and fair state aid formula, Burlington would get more than enough money so that they wouldn't need 1 cent for the property tax increase. For example, the League of Cities and Towns just came out with a proposal, which is, to me, a very fair proposal for all the cities and towns of Vermont, all the school districts. And you know what it would do? It would bring in $1.3 million into Burlington. The schools now need $1.1 million. There would be no need for a property tax increase for the schools if we had a fair formula. That's what I think you're saying. The same thing with the police, okay? I believe that we need more police protection, all right? I'm supporting a police tax, all right? It would raise $424,000. If you had a fair state aid program to help the cities and towns, like revenue sharing that Will Hunter is talking about in Montpelier, there would be absolutely no need for property tax increase for the police. We would have police, we would have education, it would not be necessary to raise property taxes.
I'm in
Another-
favor of the increase for the
Another
police.
point,
I think we should have more police, and I think that's a good idea. I'll support that. But I'll never support that education request. Now, you need to worry about it. I won't.
Lady, I
another
agree with
point I would like to bring up is where is all this lottery profits going?
you. Back
That's
into the
what I'd
lottery.
like to know. It's not going into the school program, it's going into the general fund where they're distributing it the way they feel like. And that's not fair.
Going back to that 1 cent tax on our sales tax, the money's going to come from the cosmopolitan areas anyway, isn't it?
To a large degree.
Burlington,
Will
largely,
contribute, right.
Rutland, the larger cities
Yep.
around the state of
The more
Vermont.
population, the more tax.
The more population, the more tax.
In here is a
That
case,
is a fair way of doing it.
in here is
Who
a
needs to
case,
pay 1 more cent?
in here, in this article is a case where one of the smaller towns, Stowe, for example, is giving a better grade of education to their pupils than a larger town. And I believe it's true because years ago in smaller communities, you got a better education because the teachers paid more attention to what the students needed
They were
and
more
help.
dedicated teachers.
That's right, and
That's right.
dedicated teachers. When I went to school, if we didn't know our lessons, the teacher made us stay after school and gave us extra help. Today, they could care less if a student goes along with the rest of the class or not. They just let them slide back. And that's true. I know, I brought up 7 children and I could see the way they were educated.
Okay, other thoughts? Okay, I think we have covered a good deal of ground, and I want to thank our guests today. And our guests, once again, in case people have turned in late, are Doris Brent, who, Doris, once more, tell us the,
I'm the director of the Chittenden County Senior Citizens in the Heineberg Building on Heineberg Road.
thank you, okay, and Clarence Hoffman. Clarence has
Great
only
guy.
lived, he's only lived on Woodlawn Road for 33 years. He says he's beginning to get to know the neighborhoods. A few more years he'll have it down. And Sadie White, who has been in the...
Many houses have changed hands on Woodlawn Road since I lived there.
I'll bet. And Sadie White, who is a longtime member of the Vermont State Legislature, representing the Old North End in the city of Burlington, and also a member of the Board of Aldermen in Burlington, and Margaret Lemon from Poirier Place. So I thank all of you very, very much for your comments, and we'll see you next week.